Thomas's hearing appointment today, but I couldn't film any of it. The audiologist that Thomas had no longer works there, which was news to me, which made me super flustered, and I had to use my phone to distract Thomas in the appointment. So since I can't show you the hearing test, I still really wanted to film a video, and I thought, since I'm driving and now I have quite a long commute in rush hour traffic, that I would tell you the story of Thomas's hearing loss, because that's a question I get asked a ton, is, you know, like, how did we know Thomas was hard of hearing? When did he lose his hearing? What does it involve? All that kind of stuff. So I figured that's what I would talk about today. And if you have any other questions that I don't answer today, please leave them below, or find me on any of my socials, which are always linked below. And if you have any other questions about his hearing loss or his autism, I know I got a lot of requests to do videos on that, so I will be doing more. So the story of Thomas's hearing loss. He was born at 9 o'clock at night, and I would say within 15 hours of his birth, we knew that something was wrong. So it was quite immediate. They do a hearing test in the hospital in Canada, and a lot of babies do fail that hearing test because they still have fluid in their ears from being born. That's quite normal. So when he failed that test, it didn't faze me. We had to go back a couple days later to the hospital, and he got another test, which he also failed. And then we had to go for tons more tests about an hour away. And though that began like just a horrific experience, it was so stressful, so upsetting. It was terrifying. These tests that Thomas had to get done in the hospital, or sorry, at the hearing clinic, he was a newborn. He was maybe a month old, probably not even. And he had to be silent, and he had to be still for hours. It was awful. I wasn't allowed to nurse him. It was in the dark, and he literally, I had to get him to just be silent and still for hours. It was awful. So a lot of those tests, they didn't get accurate results, so we kept getting different answers and different results. So we had to go back a lot, and then finally they discovered that he does have hearing loss, and that his left ear was worse than his right ear, and that he was going to need hearing aids, and that his type of hearing loss is progressive. So his hearing will continue to get worse. And there's no cause of this hearing loss. It's not genetic. I had a perfectly healthy pregnancy. I was very healthy in my pregnancy. Nothing wrong happened. Like, I did everything right. And the part of his hearing that is like disformed, if you will, I think formed at like 5 weeks or something. So very early on in the pregnancy. So there's nothing that, you know, I did, or it's just what happened. So he was fitted for hearing aids when he was 3 months old, and he started wearing them. For the first couple of months, he was really good at wearing them, and then we went through months, I would say probably like a 6-month period, where, no exaggeration, he pulled out his hearing aids every 5 minutes. And 6 minutes was like, yay, he left them in for 6 minutes. Like, it was awful. And the sound of that the hearing aid makes when it comes out of his ear, still, it's like I have post-traumatic stress about it. Like, it just, I hate it so much. It makes like a screechy, like, feedback sound, so that you can know that A, it's not in properly, or B, it's come out. But we heard that sound so much. So he wore a lot of toques, with like string under his chin tied tightly, and like I would leave those toques on when we were inside. Like, we would go to, oh, sorry, Just trying to get the light, okay. When we would go to like baby groups, and it kind of bothered me because I didn't want people to think that I was like embarrassed that my baby had hearing aids, because I wasn't embarrassed at all. I just didn't want him to take them out. And you know, we had times where like he took them out on a walk and I didn't know for like ever, and then I had to retrace my steps, panicked to find them. And like, I would say we went through, well, I still check all the time to make sure that he's wearing them. But you know, like when he started preschool, it was like, make sure you're always checking that he has his hearing aids in. Like, so, cause he'll just like take them out. But then he got better, and like now he wears them like the second he wakes up till the second he goes to bed, he wears his hearing aid and his cochlear implant. So he had his hearing aids for a few years, and then his left ear dropped. Like, we have to get his hearing tested all the time. His left ear dropped so dramatically and so drastically that he then qualified for his cochlear implant, which he got 3 years ago. Almost exactly, actually. I think it was St. Patrick's Day, actually, 3 years ago. We just missed the anniversary. So that's a different story I can tell in a different video. But, so we got his cochlear implant, and I get asked a lot, like, if he'll have a cochlear implant on his right side. And right now his right side of hearing is good enough to just use the hearing aid. But if it drops like the left, which it's expected to because his hearing loss is progressive, then he will have a bilateral cochlear implant on the other side. Something that's really terrifying about Thomas's hearing loss is that he cannot hit his head. So that's great news when you have an infant and then a toddler and now a little boy. Like, he cannot hit his head under no circumstances. If Thomas were to hit his head, a couple of things could happen. One, he could totally lose all the hearing in his right ear in an instant. There are steroids that if he gets them fast enough, it can replenish the hearing, but it's not a guarantee. So like, he can't go on trampolines. We just have to be super mindful of him hitting his head. Even just like falling, it's so scary. Because of his type of hearing loss, it would just completely, he would lose it on all, like, completely on that side. And then if he were to hit his head on his left side and hit the cochlear implant, it could ruin the implant and we'd have to get a new one, which clearly nobody wants. So that created like just a really scary situation for Jeremy and I, because we never wanted to be those parents that were, you know, coddling our child, but we ended up having to because we were so scared of him hitting his head and losing his hearing. So yeah, so he wears a hearing aid on the right side now and his cochlear implant on the left. We go for testing for each of them every 6 months, but they're different audiologists in different cities, and completely different teams specialize in his different sides, his different apparatus, if you will. And that's pretty much it. He doesn't wear his hearing aid in the bath or the pool or the lake, but he can wear his cochlear implant. That we do have a waterproof adapter, so I could talk about that in another video. But I think that's all I'm going to talk about in this one, because that's 9 minutes. And if you have any other questions or whatever, comments, please leave them below. Please subscribe to my channel, Lace Up and Become a Marathoner. Life isn't a sprint, it is a marathon. And I'm happy to talk about Thomas and his hearing loss or his autism if you have any other questions. Yeah, we're just here to educate and help other parents and help people just learn more about Thomas. Yeah, hope this video, you found it to be helpful and interesting. And until next time, I will see you in my next one. Bye.